have you with us on this Tuesday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. If you think you'd like to go to Cuba, you better think again. I'm just going to tell it to you like it is. The country's filthy. Cockroaches in the hotel. Now, can you get it any more straight than that? I understand that there's a tremendous fascination about Cuba, that people want to go there and see the 1950 cars and everything else, the heavy Chevys and whatnot. Been there, done that, smelled the fumes coming out of the tailpipe. It's not a big deal. What is a big deal is that the Pope and the Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church met over the weekend, and I was there, and I had an opportunity to sit down with the Russian Patriarch Kirill, and it was pretty amazing. Some of the things he said were pretty startling about how the Christian community would back some type of force put together that would go in and stop the deterioration and the extermination of Christians in North Africa and in the Middle East. And I invite you to go to our website at wegoted.com and see the entire interview. It's about 23 minutes. He touches on a lot of things internationally, and it is the first meeting between the Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church and the Pope in almost 1,000 years. It's been in the works for 20 years, and the backdrop, of course, Havana, Cuba, and Raul Castro was politically playing it up big, saying, hey, we're for peace. But he was pretty much chastised by both leaders of the faith for the way he has treated the Cuban people over the years. That's the gist of what I got out of it. But it's an interesting interview. He doesn't do many. I'm one of the only Western journalists that's ever interviewed the Patriarch, and it was interesting to see how he wants the Christian community to come together and fight terrorism. He gave a long answer on that in the interview about what we're going to do with terrorism. All right, that being said, back from Cuba on the show, and you'll see that interview tonight at 8:30 on RT America. And, of course, we'll have our regular news show at 8 o'clock tonight. The campaign trail hasn't changed much. You know, you go to Cuba, you leave the country, you come back 4 days later, and it's still Trump, it's still Hillary and Sanders. Everybody's going at each other's throats trying to get a one-upmanship in a debate or whatever. But there is one subject that is surfacing, and that is of the superdelegates. And it's something we've talked a little bit about, but I want to offer this to you. If you're a superdelegate and you're backing someone that doesn't have the popular vote, are you going to have something to explain? Do you want to be in that position? And whereas superdelegates at a low number so far may be wrapped up with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders is getting a few, the fact is I think you're going to see more and more people holding their powder than what all the numbers are out there about how many Hillary has. There'll be retractions if the Sanders campaign continues on the way they are. Now, coming up here this Saturday is going to be the caucus in Nevada. This is going to be a real challenge for Hillary to hang on because this Bernie wave is sweeping across the country. He's had his team on the ground since October. They started 30 points behind, and now they are very close. The Latino vote makes up about 19% of the population that's going to show up at this caucus. And if Bernie Sanders wins anywhere near or comes close to getting the Latino vote, it's going to spell a tough day at the office for Clinton because the Sanders people are claiming they're going to have a pretty damn good turnout. Now, there's been a lot talked about. I'm a little disappointed in John Ralston, who's a very fine journalist out in Las Vegas. He said all the unions are with Hillary. That's not true. There's 4,000 IBEW workers in Las Vegas who are committed to Bernie Sanders and are on the ground. So not all union people, not all nurses, not all teachers, and not all laborers are for one candidate or another. And this is going to be a dogfight about turnout. There's no heavy polling going either way in this. And whoever gets their people to the caucus is the way it's going to work. And I think if it's close and they split in delegates because there's an odd number of them, and Bernie just picks up the delegates he needs to keep going, what is that going to do to the next primary? That, of course, is going to be South Carolina. Tyler Jones joins us, a longtime Democratic activist, here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Tyler, good to have you with us.
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me.
You bet. What are you doing now? Give us exactly what your title is. What's happening?
Well, I'm the senior advisor and spokesman for the South Carolina House Democrats and the House Minority Leader, Todd Rutherford. And I just finished up a stint as Martin O'Malley's South Carolina State Director.
Okay, so you were an O'Malley supporter as state director. And, of course, after Iowa, he stepped away from the campaign. Where do you stand now, if anywhere?
I am neutral, and I am honestly undecided.
Okay,
I'm one of those few undecided voters left out there.
You say few undecideds. You're talking South Carolina?
Right, correct.
Okay, so you think that there's not a big equation here to deal with on undecideds in South Carolina at this point?
I don't. I've seen some polling that suggests that undecideds are anywhere between 5 and 10% of the electorate, the primary electorate. And right now, Hillary is up from anywhere between 10 to 20 points, depending on which poll you look at. I saw one today that had her up 10. I saw one yesterday that had her up 20. Unless Bernie can get this within about 5 percentage points, which I think is possible, then I don't think the undecideds are going to ultimately decide this race.
Okay. Let's talk about the African American community. It seems like that's all the mainstream media wants to talk about, so I guess I'll jump in. Is it that much of a factor in South Carolina when it comes to turnout to winning this primary? What about that?
Yeah, so it's complicated, Ed, because in 2008, with Barack Obama on the ballot, African Americans made up 58% of the primary turnout. I think that's going to be much less this time. But I was telling somebody earlier today, unfortunately for the Democratic Party, I think we've lost some white Democrats in the last 8 years, some more moderate to conservative Democrats. So I'm not sure what that's going to do to turnout, but I would guess it's still going to be about half of the overall turnout. So it is a big deal in South Carolina. The African-American vote will decide who wins South Carolina. Right now, that's Hillary, but Bernie's doing a hell of a job, getting a lot of African-American support, both institutional support and among voters. They've got a much larger organization here in South Carolina. They've got more staff, more offices. I've been contacted numerous times by the Bernie campaign. I haven't been contacted by the Hillary campaign in a long, long time. So, the fact that this is a week and a half away, I think benefits Hillary. But if this were to be 3 weeks down the road, then that's when Bernie could make some noise. The problem is African American voters just don't know Bernie that well. They're having to learn about him very quickly. The question is it going to be quick enough for him to win the state? And that's yet to be seen.
It seems that Clinton has really done everything she possibly can to get the African-American endorsement anyone of significance, such as the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know what that does, because you got a congressional group that's got about a 10% approval rating with the American people.
Yeah.
Isn't the big player in South Carolina, and he has not made any decision yet, Jim Clyburn? What about that?
The rumor is that he's going to endorse Hillary, but right now it's just a rumor. I've talked to a lot of people who are close to the congressman, and they're adamant that he has yet to decide who he's going to endorse. But I guess conventional wisdom would tell us that he's probably going to go with her. My guess is he's waiting for this thing to kind of shake out a little bit, kind of the same way that Nikki Haley on the Republican side is waiting. They want to make sure that they don't back the losers here. That they've got a lot of clout in this state, and they want to make sure they back the winning horse. And so my guess is Congressman Clyburn, just like Governor Haley, they're going to wait a few more days, see some more polls, see who has the momentum. And if it looks like it's going to be really close in South Carolina between Bernie and Hillary, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed out of this.
See, that disappoints me. I would hope that it would be a Wellstone endorsement. You don't care about winning, you care about what you believe in. And when you tell me that they want to back a winner, to hell with backing a winner. Why don't you back what's good for African-American people and what's good for the economy and what's good for the future of working families in this country? And I think the case that Bernie's making is more than strong right now. And Hillary has gone so far as to say that it's more than a one-issue campaign. I just think, to me, that shows that she's nervous, that she's trying to find something on Bernie, and that's the sense I get. How is it being played in South Carolina? Tyler Jones with us. How's it being played in South Carolina that she rearranged her schedule and stayed in Nevada an extra day and then sent former President Clinton down there to fill in? What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Bernie's in South Carolina today, and he had several stops, and he's gone from Charleston to Columbia. He's in front of some big crowds, and I know President Clinton's in Greenville right now. But I think most folks know that I wouldn't say that they're in panic mode right now, but they're really close. And instead of Hillary being in South Carolina, they've caught just about every surrogate they have at their disposal in this state right now. I was telling somebody yesterday, you can't swing a dead cat by its tail in South Carolina without hitting a Hillary surrogate. I mean, they've got everybody from Eric Holder to actresses like Angela Bassett to Congressman John Lewis, Cory Booker. I mean, they've got everybody here in South Carolina, and they wouldn't be doing that unless they were a little spooked. But I think most folks know that, she's nervous about Nevada too. And so she's got to spend some time out there. But, I mean, there's a real chance that she could be upset in both Nevada and South Carolina. And so that's why it looks like they're throwing the kitchen sink at both states and making her spend some more time in Nevada.
That is a great take and a great sense on the ground. Tyler, what kind of turnout are we going to have? We saw a tremendous turnout in New Hampshire, a very solid turnout in Iowa. What's South Carolina going to do?
Well, the problem with South Carolina is our we have an open primary system in South Carolina, meaning that Republicans can vote in Democratic primaries and vice versa. And the fear among Democrats is the Republican primary is Saturday. It's on the 20th. It's a week before the Democratic primary. And you got a lot of folks who either want to vote against Donald Trump, or you've got some conservative Democrats who would otherwise vote for Hillary Clinton, may vote for somebody like John Kasich in the Republican primary. So we're all kind of waiting to see what turnout is going to be in the Republican primary before we can adequately assess what turnout is going to be like in our primary. But I don't think it's going to be anywhere near 2008 levels. But it all comes down to how many conservative Democrats, moderate Democrats, and independents who may have voted in 2008 for somebody like President Obama vote in the Republican primary.
All right.
So we'll see probably Sunday.
What do you got for Supreme Court conversation down there? I mean, is that a hot button issue?
Oh, my gosh. It's the topic of every conversation outside of the presidential race. I mean, it's an opportunity for President Obama to outsmart the Republicans one last time. It's an opportunity for Republicans to blow it when it comes to holding their majority in the Senate. And I don't think I think President Obama's doing the right thing by kind of taking some time. He's got his folks close to him, and they're trying to strategize this whole situation. And Republicans came out within hours and said, "Oh, we're going to block whoever he nominates, even though we have no idea who it is." So they showed their cards a little too early, and I think the president's doing what he's best at, which is taking some time, being thoughtful, and making the right decision. But if it were me, Ed, I think it's time for an African American female for the Supreme Court. I think that would.
I don't disagree with you. Okay, I don't know if Loretta Lynch is going to be the selection or not. But I'm going to give a commentary moment about what I just think Obama has got to get out there and get in the campaign spirit and fight for this.
Oh yeah.
He can't leave it to Sanders and Clinton and Sanders to go out and talk about how the president should be able to do this. He's got to go out there and get this thing going. Tyler, we'll check in again before the South Carolina primary. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ed.
You
Good
bet.
to talk to you again.
You bet. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this Ed Schultz news and commentary. RT News with Ed tonight at 8 o'clock on Dish and Direct, and you can get it at RT.com and, of course, at WeGotEd.com. Stay with us. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegotit.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. That's iSaveTeam.org. Ed Schultz News and Commentary is broadcast from the Center for American Progress. They are the nation's leading progressive think tank. Find their policy ideas online at AmericanProgress.org or on Twitter at AMPROG. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday edition, Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Okay, you can say what you want about Scalia, and I'm not going to say anything bad about a dead guy. And you can praise the former justice all you want and put into perspective his influence on the Supreme Court, how he may have changed it. But it's a fact he was against equal rights for women. Okay? It's a fact that he took a legal position against unions. It's a fact that he wanted people to have health care only if they could afford it. And let's not, of course, forget Citizens United. So if you want to praise Scalia and his positions, that's fine. I can't. And I'm sure he was a wonderful family man. I'm sure I hear all these wonderful personal stories about the guy. But when it comes to his interpretation of the Constitution and the law and the rights of the people and for the greater good, I'm not there. Now, this campaign is filled with all this clarification about what the president should do, can't do, and all this other crap. This is nothing but a political fight. It's Washington at its nastiest, and I think this president has to be committed to winning this fight. Now, the question is, while there's a fight on both sides for the heart and soul of the party, I mean, can the conservatives have any moderation at all? Can the liberals really rally behind a change agent of a populist nature and take down the establishment? I mean, there's a fight going on both sides. Now, if the president doesn't plead his case to the people and make the case to support him in this way, that he's going to be a lame duck before he's a lame duck. And the balance of the court cuts to the very fabric of what Barack Obama ran on and what he was elected on twice. And so Obama has got a chance to nominate somebody who could change all of the things that I had mentioned about Scalia and where he stood on the issues. But for Obama, this is really, if you look at it, he is tailor-made for this fight. He has been amazing at how he can get the people behind him, and he's been amazing about how he can inspire a movement. But he's going to have to get out there and do it. He can't leave it to Clinton and Sanders on the stump to say what the president ought to be able to do. The president's fighting spirit, I think, could really motivate a lot of people on the Democratic side. And I think he could also educate a lot of people and engage them in understanding the severity of this selection and what it means to the future of the country. And so it's the old saying, the rocks go with the farm. He is the president. The buck stops on his desk. You buy the farm, you get the rocks. This is not lame duck time, Mr. President. I think Obama has to get out there, and if he fails at this, it's going to be part of his legacy that he had a chance to change the court and he couldn't get it done. So I support the president wholeheartedly, but it's the way he does it is going to be very important and is going to make a difference. He ought to go to Kentucky and talk about it. That's right, because Mitch McConnell, of course, wants to obstruct again. He ought to make it the theme of his road trip and should do one every 2 weeks until he gets what he wants, the theme of obstruction and what we've had to fight through. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSafe team. We're back tomorrow.